Hello, this is Reed Durbin. I'm a candidate for an educational specialist degree at Kennesaw State University, and I've been studying instructional technology. My research study was entitled The Use and Saturation of Social Networking Among Secondary Teachers, and I'm going to tell you about how that proceeded. We drafted the initial proposal and began the framing of our research project in the fall semester of 2014. I had a lot of trouble finding a topic that I wanted to do, but after weeks of delay, I finally picked a topic. Well, that's how I felt anyway. So I decided to study social networking in education. As I narrowed the idea, I decided to create a piece that might be useful. So I came up with the idea of looking at how the teachers in my county were using it in area high schools. But of course I couldn't use my county. You know, there's confidentiality reasons. So I wanted to find out if and how teachers were using social networking to connect with their students and to figure out how they were using it for their content or coaching areas. Specifically, I wanted to know how are teachers using social networking with their students? How has social networking impacted the teacher's professional life? How have students responded to the use of social networking? And what are the challenges and opportunities of using social networking? As I began to study and look for research, I found two major problems. First, most of the literature deals with post-secondary settings or did not deal with American students or American high school students. Second, most of that research was made obsolete due to rapid changes in technology and social networking in particular. Still, I found three important topics revealed in the literature. One was the critical role of the teacher. It's not a big surprise that energetic teachers of social networking get better results than reluctant users. Also, I found that the impact on student performance was a theme within the literature. And finally, the benefits and obstacles faced by teachers. What constitutes safe, effective use? How are teachers handling privacy issues? So I found some good articles, but not enough, and I'll cover that in just a little bit. So I found some good literature, but then I needed to figure out how I wanted my research to proceed. I began thinking about developing a qualitative study using action research, but I felt limited at that prospect. But then I found a methodology that sounded promising: grounded action theory. Grounded action theory brings together grounded theory and action research to suggest policy changes to decision makers. At the core of grounded theory are interviews. I achieved triangulation starting with my initial interest in social networking. This was then followed by the literature review. And the final piece was the interviews with teachers and our county tech coordinator. After obtaining permission from my county, I sent out an email soliciting teachers from our 5 county high schools. Some people responded quickly, but others needed to be asked, and ultimately I only ended up with 7 teachers who represented a spectrum of age and experience. However, they did not represent any ethnic diversity since they were all Caucasian, and one high school didn't respond at all. So my interviews began. They kept me pretty busy, but they provided insight and I enjoyed discussing social networking with teachers. After holding follow-up interviews and coding these to identify themes, here's what I discovered. There's a wide variance of platforms and uses in social networking. Teachers are very concerned about equity and efficiency, but mostly privacy in dealing with social networking. The efficiency was reported by all of my respondents in a positive way. And that meant that student engagement was increased and student responsibility was very high. I found that teachers were using a pretty wide array of social networking systems to connect with their students. Two of my respondents were technology teachers who have lab environments for their students, and they both use Schoology as their everyday platform. However, the other teachers all used a combination of various platforms. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram were all mentioned, and some of these teachers reported using 2 of these at a time. I also found that teachers had a wide variety of uses for social networking with their students. Most of the teachers were using social networking to notify and remind students and parents of upcoming assignments or events. Some reported that they used social networking for collaboration with peers and colleagues to exchange ideas and resources. And a few used social networking to promote their athletic, drama, or chorus events. In terms of safe and ethical use of social networking, this was a major concern for every teacher who responded. Both of the teachers in computer labs said they teach proper use of digital communication to their students. However, for everyone else, the concern was clearly privacy from their students. One reported that their students used any flaw or omission in communication as a way to argue over that assigned work. Another discussed time constraints in managing different platforms. Another teacher admitted she sometimes left her phone in her car to avoid the temptation of accessing her social networking sites since they were all blocked by the school. Still, all were adamant that schools need to make social networking easier. One teacher replied, "The school system should be teaching about social networking and not blocking it as if it's only bad." I also found that the impact on student performance was great for those using social networking. All reported better completion of assignments, and they increased communication with parents, except for one teacher who reported that parents did not seem to use the grade function in Schoology, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. They also reported a higher degree of responsibility towards work and performances or games, and all the teachers reported students found networking to be an easy fit for this electronic generation. So here are the results of what I discovered and what I recommended. Teachers are really not using social networking very much. I contacted potentially about 500 teachers and I only got 8 replies. One person wasn't really using social networking at all, but this figures out to about 1.4% of teachers in the county. Of my 7 teachers, only 2 were actually using it with students for assigned work and to communicate on a day-to-day basis. Concern for digital citizenship, etiquette, and preparation is critical to effective use of social networking. These teachers brought enthusiasm to its use and had high expectations, which convinced students of its effectiveness. They were concerned about the protection of personal boundaries and respecting time that were of the highest priority for these teachers. Access to computers is an ongoing limitation and was also explained as a reason for limiting that use. Advantages of social networking far outweigh potential challenges. Students and teachers both appreciated increased avenues of communication. Teachers who used it for assignments praised the accountability built into completing the work. All reported that it makes parent notification easier. However, it was also more time-consuming for many of the teachers. I proposed that the district invest in a learning management system with social networking capabilities. This one system would cut confusion, have a grading book so parents only had one to manage, decrease chances of violations of privacy or school policy, and allow for collaboration with others for both students and teachers. And here's what I learned from completing my research project. First, my literature review was just too light. I had about 20 serious works, but if I extended my search into learning management systems, I would have received a lot more relevant research materials. My follow-up interviews were rushed and did not yield much additional insight. The time for the project was just too tight to really focus on this aspect of my research. My grasp of coding was difficult and was weak, and that made it hard to be as systematic or precise as it should have been. And finally, because of hurrying to complete the assignment, there were some minor though persistent problems with my command of APA, which quite frankly, careful proofreading would have caught. On the other hand, I learned some valuable things in completing the study. In spite of the limited response from my teacher, I think I got a pretty good look into the use of social networking in schools. There are many reasons for this limited use, and I felt like a lot of it was connected to challenges faced by the teachers. Most of these challenges involved either time, access, or privacy concerns. Still, these were accounted for and managed by these effective teachers. I advocated for the adoption of a unified learning management system with social networking capabilities. In conducting my research, I met with and discussed social networking with my district's technology coordinator. In the course of that interview, he indicated that the county was looking to purchase access to a new LMS for teachers. My recommendation is to do so using Schoology, which was determined by many teachers to be the best unified system available. Schoology offers reminder features and social networking to encourage and facilitate communication. Schoology also offers a secure platform to teachers for collaboration with peers. I don't know if my paper will have any impact with the decision of my district, but I hope it will. And finally, I learned a great deal about research methods and protocols, enough to know that I needed more time to do a more thorough investigation. And I have a new respect for people who engage in this kind of research with enthusiasm. So that's all. That's the basis of my research. I can't say I really enjoyed the project, but I did do a lot, and I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you learned something from this discussion. Good night.